Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is John Viglotti. On behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for our next presentation from SulNOx Group. Please note you can submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Ben Richardson. He's the Chief Executive Officer of SulNOx Group, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol SNOXF and on AQUS under the symbol SNOX. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here in New York and to be presenting to such a crowd of esteemed investors like yourselves. So you've spoiled my thunder. Yeah, very excited the fact that we moved from the QB to the QX today, and I'm going to explain exactly how SulNOx can improve every drop of liquid hydrogen hydrocarbons on the planet. So this is why we've represented here the whole trucking world, the whole mining world, the big shipping world, generators, buses, etc. With our all-natural solutions that are zero capex and can make an immediate difference to both the planet and critically to the wallet of every user. So after the generous disclaimer, which I'm sure will come with you later, we hear a lot about decarbonization, and we ourselves as users of cars, I myself have a hybrid car, and it's the right thing to do. But the reality is the best batteries are still 10,000 times less energy dense than fossil fuels. Hydrogen, which is a great hope for the future and something we all aspire to get to, needs a whole new infrastructure. And all the green fuels we hear about for shipping many years away require, again, a whole new infrastructure, and many are frankly very dangerous. So what we have is a situation where the world still requires fossil fuels and will require them for a great many years to come, but there really is no viable alternative for energy transition. And I say that because we are a viable energy transition solution. As regulations come in, we've moved from talking about doing something to the climate to actually making a change. And we're offering today an immediate solution to reduce fuel consumption, and it's the order of 5 to 15% reduction in every petrol, diesel, and combustion engine across the planet, whilst also reducing emissions as well. But to give you an example, in the regulation in the shipping world, where you have ships the size of the Empire State Building that burn a couple of 100 tons of fuel a day, it's becoming really expensive to trade. The more and more emissions regulation is coming in. And as I just showed you on the previous slide, there is no way to actually incorporate these new technologies yet. So we've got a situation where the price of doing business is going up, but there is no way of reducing the cost of consumption. Now, we are offering, with a 5 to 10% fuel consumption reduction, the ability for the largest ships on the planet to significantly reduce their consumption and therein their costs. Now, a big container ship can save net of the cost of our products some $1 million per annum. And there are some 100,000 ships on the planet that require this solution. So we're able to reduce the need to buy the carbon credits to offset the use of fossil fuels. And as those carbon credits become more and more in demand, we ourselves believe we can generate them through the reduction in fossil fuel consumption and also the reduction in emissions. So a little bit about us. As I've said, we are, how I described it, the energy transition solution to make a massive impact on the planet and on fuel consumption today. As we just heard, we're thrilled to be on the move to the QX today, and also traded in the UK. But our products are here to optimize combustion. I have a sample of the product here just to show you it's all real. It's a simple zero capex, all natural solution that optimizes combustion. And when you optimize combustion, you reduce consumption, you reduce emissions. And we are scientifically proven with many of the institutions on the right. LR, for instance, Lloyd's Register is the a foremost name in shipping in Europe, and now we're starting to win awards. So 3 principal products that we have. I'll talk to you today mostly about this one, the Eco solution, Eco Conditioner, which is suitable to be poured in, simply poured in, to all gasoline, diesel, biofuels, and all of the marine fuels. And we know it will work with aviation. We just haven't quite got there yet. So as I said, in the shipping world, we're saving 5 to 10% consumption, which makes an enormous amount of difference. In Africa, where the vehicles are old and the fuel is poor, we can make as much as 15% reduction in consumption, which you can imagine can make a humanitarian difference as well. But when the product is used, the beauty is it brings down CO2 by around 30%, and other greenhouse gases like NOx and SOx. In this example, NOx around 15%. But really the big story is with improved combustion comes the reduction in the black smoke that you see from a ship's funnel or indeed from an exhaust in a car. And that is reduced by 95%. So from an air quality perspective, we are getting rid of the black smoke, we're getting rid of the NOx, so it's improving everybody's air as well. And the beauty of the product is it also improves the mechanical side. We clean, we lubricate, and that has an enormous benefit mechanically. Second product is what we call the stabilizer. So the old adage of fuel and water won't mix. Well, guess what? With SulNOx, we've mixed fuel and water over 5 years ago, and it still hasn't settled out. And to give you an idea, it would normally settle out overnight. So as we move to the world of biofuels, which will be some 20%, 27% of all fuels come 2050, this is a key solution to stabilize the problems around biofuels and to make them last longer. And then finally, the $2 billion oil reclamation market. So we're just getting patents now on the ability to split out water and oil to make oil recyclable and far more saleable, because we can push out water in hours rather than days that it typically takes, and we can remove a lot of the water which typically resides in waste oil. So in terms of the mechanisms, this is where it all gets a bit scientific, so bear with me. We have an issue with fuel. It burns badly because it burns as a big particle from the outside in, meaning incomplete combustion. What we've got here in the top right crucible is simply forecourt diesel that is combusted in a lab and showing the black soot pattern that you might see coming out of an exhaust or indeed a ship's funnel. So that is incomplete combustion. That black smoke is just unburnt fuel. What SulNOx is able to do, firstly, we scavenge for water, and also we provide this glycol ether. We get inside that big fuel particle so that when we go into the combustion chamber, the small at 100 degrees or 150 degrees, the water will vaporize, or the glycol ether will vaporize, and that will smash the big particle into lots of little particles. And we all know from basic chemistry that when you've got more surface area for air to interact, you get better combustion. And that's what we're doing. It's called the secondary atomization effect. It's a known scientific fact. And what we've actually got here in the bottom right is heavy fuel oil and water burning cleaner than diesel. So it gives you an idea of how effective this process is at improving combustion. The product itself also provides lubricity. This is really key because the sulfur used to be quite high in its content in fuel. Through regulation, that's come down. And we add as much as 30% lubricity back into the fuel, which makes everything work that much better. And then we have surfactants, detergents, which clean everything along the fuel journey. And you get some of that detergency when you fill up with the premium fuel at your gas station. We provide it as well. And it means that everything works that much better. So in summary, we are able to reduce fuel consumption 10%. And that's through improved combustion, which leads to the fuel consumption coming down. We're also able to reduce emissions, all the greenhouse gases and all of the black particulate matter or black carbon, which is now just starting to become reportable under many regulations. But we're also able to provide an ESG story. So those customers that use SulNOx are able to say, well, we are going greener. So the hard to abate sectors like mining, like shipping, like aviation, those customers, and indeed their supply chains that use SulNOx, are able to say we're going greener. And as a result, we have several ship owners and managers that are already shareholders today, and we're looking for more strategic investors for that journey. So in terms of the market, it's really 70% plus of every barrel of oil. So it's trying to get SulNOx into the fuel stations across the globe. In the US, some of the biggest petrol station chains might not want to sell SulNOx. They might have their own products. But in Africa, in Ghana, for instance, there's 250 petrol station chains. We're now in about 5 of those, sold in smaller amounts, but now looking to get into the pumps. And this is the same across many countries in the world. There's a huge transportation market. Every trucking company is trying to reduce its highest cost, its fuel cost. And in a competitive world, it makes a big difference if you can take 10% off of that fuel spend. Locomotives across the world can't be electrified because of bridges and needs to redo the whole infrastructure. They're a huge target for us. But the biggest target for us today is the marine world. I've already mentioned around 100,000 vessels. To give you an idea, for SulNOx to generate profits, we require about 40 vessels. And today we're talking to more than 35 companies are trialing the product and starting to roll it out across their fleets of about 4,500. So whilst revenues are small today, we don't need very much to become excessively profitable. Then I've mentioned oil reclamation. There's also the huge defense sector. They're looking for reliability, and with improved lubricity and ability to deal with water issues, we provide a resilience play as well as a reduction in consumption. And then there's the mining and the generator sector. So I just looked it up. There's about 7 million generators in the US, but in Africa, in Lagos alone, there's 4.5 million. So where the power in the world is still reliant on generators, this is a huge market and one we're only just starting to get into. And then there's the ancillary things like construction and agriculture. If we look at the environmental benefits, which are becoming more and more to the fore, especially in Canada, and a nod to the CSE here as well. So everybody wants to reduce their emissions, but primarily they want to reduce their costs, and we've got a product that does both. But it's a unique product in the fact it reduces not only CO2 but other greenhouse gases, and as I mentioned, the black carbon, which is the unburnt fuel. And here is a long-term generator study just showing exactly how effective the product is. A 30% or 27% reduction in CO2, as well as NOx and SOx, and that more than 95% reduction in black carbon is unheard of, and just reiterates why we're patented, why we're unique, and why our partner Nurian has put their name to the product. Now, as an investor, you will also really like to look at this. So with the ability to reduce consumption by the amount we can, this leads to, can we reduce people's scope 3 emissions? Can we reduce and potentially even create carbon credits? So when you burn a litre, or shall we say a quarter of a gallon of fuel, it will emit 2.6 kilograms of CO2. Now, we've done the carbon life cycle on this product. It adds 2 grams to put this in to a litre or quarter gallon of every drop of fuel. But with a 14% reduction in consumption, which I showed you from the generator study, that will reduce carbon by 377 grams. So net use of the product is 194 times carbon reducer. So you can imagine the opportunity to create carbon credits from the use of the product. And this is something we've now brought consultants in to see exactly how we can make this into a viable carbon credit solution. A little mention about Nurian. Nurian is a Carlyle Group company. They make this product for us. So the reason we've got them making it across the world is because they are big. They can produce the quantities that we need for the shipping world, and they can produce it quickly and get it anywhere at a moment's notice. So they're a US company with 13 factories here, or processing plants here alone, and that is key in a world where we've got so many different users of the product. Today, we are sold in 37 countries. The blue dots, for those of you with good eyesight, can see that those are the marine hubs, and we've spent a lot of money recently putting product into Houston, into Singapore, and into Fujairah, and also for Europe and Gibraltar. I'm pleased to say that we're now increasingly getting more and more patents granted. The other day we had Saudi Arabia granted, in addition to Japan and Chile in the last 3 weeks. But we're already fully patented here in the US and with EPA approval. So the fact that I've hired somebody here in the States is testament to how much we want to grow here and indeed in Canada. So on a broad spectrum, why you should get excited about SulNOx, sorry, we'll go back again, is that we've got such huge potential. We are a company that's over the last 3 years done the heavy lifting. We've got the science and the testimonials to prove the effectiveness of the product. We've now got product in about 100 vessels, all showing about 5 or 6% improvement in consumption. And these are the world's biggest container ships, cruise ships, tankers, and we really are with a huge pipeline now, looking to grow revenues dramatically. In Asia, where Singapore sells far more bunkers than anyone else, we're talking to some large commodities companies who may well want to put this in the fuel pre-blended, and that will give everyone a commercial advantage. They will capture more of the wallet of any potential customer, and the customer will save money on their fuel and indeed reduce their emissions. I've mentioned Africa. Africa is super exciting. I've seen it firsthand. The black smoke can go in 5 minutes like that, and it makes a big difference to a 15% reduction in fuel consumption, and improving of maintenance issues makes a big deal of difference. I've mentioned North America and the fact we're hiring here. This is the first foray into the US, certainly hoping that we can attract some investment and indeed attract some distributors who will sell the product for us in America. If we look at the right-hand side, the revenue graph, you can see what it's doing. Whilst it came off slightly last quarter, I'm particularly excited to say this was not deliberate, but it was for a good reason. We opened up the whole of the heavy fuel oil market, which is 30% of the shipping world. It's what all the big container ships use, all the big tankers use as a fuel. And we've demonstrated over the last quarter our effectiveness at reducing their consumption as well. So whilst the revenue came off, we actually sold more product last quarter than we've ever sold before. And this is a trend we expect to continue with those type of ships getting involved. But in the bottom left, innovation, we're a company that's rooted in R&D. And we, as I mentioned, can get into the biofuel market, both first generation biofuel, which is natural based, and then the hydrotreated or HVO world of synthetic fuels. We can improve every single drop of those, as well as stabilizing and getting rid of some of the issues that they have around water content, etc. We're also going to put a DNA in the fuel to enable traceability, which will again be critical for proof around carbon credits and emissions reduction. And I've already talked about oil reclamation and that huge market. So these patents are coming through now, and we're excited that they seem to be getting granted without much issue. In summary then, the energy transition company able to influence more than 70% of every barrel of oil today. We're able to reduce emissions, not just greenhouse gas, but also the black smoke, which is becoming increasingly reportable. It's 3,200 times worse than CO2, to give you an idea of why, but it's hard to monitor and only can be reduced with combustion improvement such as SulNOx offers. In terms of the products, they're high margin and patented, so it's difficult for others to get into our space. Yes, there are lots of additive type products, but none of them are effective and do exactly what SulNOx does time and time again, regardless of fuel, regardless of engine type, regardless of industry. And if all of this is not exciting enough, once we finish saving the planet, in here is a core emulsifier. That's a green natural emulsifier, and emulsifiers are used in food. They're used in biotech. They're used in all these upcoming novel foods that you see. Those E numbers that you see on the back of the packet, that's just emulsifier. And our product, as such a strong emulsifier, is able to get into pharmaceuticals and indeed the food industry as well. And if all of this hasn't swayed you, then this is the bigger picture. This is what we are able to influence today. We're offering a zero capex solution, something that's immediately effective at reducing fossil fuel consumption and emissions. And I will stop there. So thank you very much.
Now is the time for the Q&A. Any questions in the audience?
So what is your target for profitability, and will the cash balance that you showed, is that going to fund your operations, or will you need to raise additional cash?
So we've got about $2 million for those of you in the bank, for those of you who missed it. And the hope is that with the wonderful progress we're making in the maritime sector, that revenues will not only cover the costs, but then move very quickly to very good profitability, potentially even dividends, with the size of the fleets that we're talking to. So, but shipping is probably 60% of our revenue today. We expect it to continue to be that sort of ratio. But as we move into mining and indeed the generator world, where we specifically hired people to get involved, we see so much more revenue opportunity. Now, I mentioned previously that whilst we may not be looking for primary funding, what we are actually looking for are strategic investors, such as mining companies, or indeed more shipping companies or commodities traders, so that we can grow faster. I always describe we need a big brother to take us bigger, quicker, because we're a company that, frankly, probably no one in here has ever heard of, but it's such a big company, a company that can make such a massive impact and generate so much revenue within a very short space of time.
Any other questions?
Yes. So the thing about big companies is they buy big companies. We've done very well at opening the doors, and I've been talking to various large oil companies for the last couple of years. The process is not fast, and what we've actually seen is, particularly in Africa, it's a case of the tail wagging the dog. So we've got this product now on the forecourts of several, as I mentioned, 5 different companies in Ghana, for instance. And now we're finding that the customer is demanding that this gets pre-mixed into their fuel. What's been amazing is that in some of these big companies, they have their own product, but the customers are still demanding this is also mixed in. And we found that if SulNOx is mixed in with even the premium fuels, that we're still making a 5-10% reduction in consumption, regardless. It's a function of time, I think, before anything. Yeah.
When you're talking about the carbon credits, are you just talking as a generality, or will the SulNOx, let's say, be the ones who own the carbon credits that you get from the EPA or the Europeans?
So I doubt we'll get sort of what's the word, official regulatory credits. I suspect they'll be voluntary in their nature. until we become ubiquitous, which is my plan. But yeah, the idea is that the user of the product will gain the credits, and then we will probably share. You usually have a sharing arrangement where we would get some of the benefit, the user gets some of the benefit, and maybe the introducer or the creator of the credit gets some of the benefits. But really, we've been advised that there's no product that's able to reduce greenhouse gas and black carbon. So instead of a $3 a ton carbon credit, you could be looking at multiples of that as well, because it would be unique in its nature and therefore highly in demand.
Price point, like I put $50 of fuel in my tank.
Yeah.
How much is that?
You'll have to forgive me because the gas is so cheap here. But the point the point is that this would treat so 50 liters. So what's that? About 15 gallons or so. Yeah. So it's a simple 1 to 2,000.
How much is that at point of purchase at the gas
It
station?
depends on the quantity, but let me tell it this way around. So the point is, if you spend $1, you're going to save 5. That would be your rule of thumb.
If I spend $1 on your product,
Yeah, then you're going to save 5 on the amount of fuel that you consume or don't consume. I did, but customs weren't particularly happy, so I had to give them over. But yeah, we can buy it on the website now.
The heating market, the heating oil market, of course, is all consumer based. Still big in the U.S., unfortunately, Canada especially. Are you working with companies to try to introduce that product, or it works differently?
No, not yet is the honest answer, but it works with heating oil. I myself have oil heating at home, and yeah, you can tell for those of you who have oil-based heating, the smell of is not very pleasant, but it dramatically reduces the smell. You can tell immediately. Well, my wife told me immediately that what have you done to the gas? It's gone. So and this is what we see repeatedly. It doesn't matter what type of fuel in what combustion engine, the black smoke goes and the emissions reduce, and it's noticeable.